Hello, Psychologies readers. I have got the wonderful Dina Glouberman with us today. I'm so delighted. I'm so excited to talk to you, Dina. You have been an inspiration in my life. I love your books. I love Skyros. So just let me introduce you to Dina if you don't know who she is. Dina is the co-founder of the wonderful Skyros. If you don't know Skyros, Skyros is one of the world's best holidays, according to the Sunday Times. It is the place where I started my novel. It's a place where I've booked to go on retreats before. It's an amazing sanctuary that you've created there. So thank you for creating it. But also your books, The Joy of Burnout was amazing. Your Life Choices, Life Changes was the book that inspired my big career change. And your latest book, Into the Woods, is very inspiring. And also, you know, for women like you, you're a wise woman, and we want to hear what you did, how you overcame this obstacle. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me.
That's so lovely. So Dina, what I want to pick your brains about today, so we are having a whole theme day about creative beginnings, and I know that you wrote a book around new beginnings, and I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about, you know, it's holiday season now. People are thinking about going on holiday, but we want to encourage people to go on holiday and use this as an opportunity to start again. So where should we start? Let's say people come to Skyros or they stay at home. Where do we start to change our lives?
Okay, so let me first say, actually, holidays are a great way to start because you give yourself a space. You get away from your old habits, your old concepts of yourself, other people's concepts of you, and you meet people that don't have those preconceptions and cheer you on. So that's why it's great, particularly a holiday like Skyros, where it's focused on life change. But you can do it anywhere. You just
you don't need to go away, do you? It's not necessary.
You don't need to go away. You can do it anywhere as long as you make yourself a decision that you're going to focus on that and give yourself the time and space to focus on it.
I think that there is a commitment, isn't there, we have to make, because I think often we're running away constantly from our feelings, or we know that change is imminent perhaps, so we don't make the space and make the time. So I think there is an element of committing. Is there something that we can do to, I mean, when you go on holiday, that's why it's great, because there's a beginning and a middle and an end to the holiday. But if you're doing it at home, is there any way we can sort of commit to doing that? Is it a habit that we create, or we, you know, create a certain time, or what advice would you give us about?
So let me say first that the first step really isn't the change, but it's accepting where you are.
Yes.
And actually that's how people burn out, actually, is that they don't accept that they're on the wrong path now, and they drive themselves down the old path. So the first step is to really acknowledge that something's going on that needs to shift.
Yeah.
And no matter how hard it is, you're not stuck. It's a catalyst for a new beginning. And I think once people understand that, they can stand looking at things. You can stand to look at what's going on because you know this is going to help you.
Yeah.
Help you make the shift, but you can't shift without knowing where you are. And I think a lot of people do an escape thing. You know, like with burnout, I'll change my job. You might change your job and do the exact same thing. You've got to look at what's going on and see what your next step is.
Yeah, I think that's so true, is that the idea of if you change the outside, then the inside will change. And at Psychologies, it's always been about let's change, you know, within versus without. I mean, we were just talking earlier about me changing my name. So I've just changed my name from Suzy Greaves to Suzy Walker. However, I've just done almost sort of 4 years of very deep, dark therapy to enable me to get to that point. It's not that I'm changing my name to hope that my life is going to be different on the outside. So I think what you're saying, what I'm really hearing is when we do that inner work, it allows us to see this any crisis as an invitation to change. So we don't have
crisis is a catalyst. And if you believe in the soul, they say that when there's a crisis, the soul wakes up, gets interested. So So you've got your soul helping you while you're doing that. And I think what you're saying about the internal change, the first stage is you have to acknowledge where you are. The second stage is that you have to have a turning point. A turning point it's not an external turning point. It's a vision. It's an internal vision of what would be the right step for you in the future. So you have to go through that internal shift, not just an external shift, although external shifts sometimes push you. Like someone gets very ill, or someone gets a new job, or someone has a baby. That might push you into that, but you can't rely on that. You have to do your inner work as well.
So when you say an inner vision, so I was talking this morning, I call it the la la land, think big and just be able to envision something really different for yourself. Not that you're going to fly to the moon or move to Hollywood or whatever that big thing is. It's more about what that means to you, about being able to tap into your values. So when you talk about creating a vision, how do we do that? Where do we start? Do we write it down? Give me some questions or tools.
Okay, so what I do is I work with imagery, and what I have found is that if people go into the future and look back at how they got there, that's much better than looking forward to what you want. So the sort of exercise I do, and you can make this up for yourself, is you get into a space and time ship, go off the face of the earth and come back 5 years from now, 1 year from now, whatever you want. 2 futures I do, which is strange. A good one where you have honored your true self, and a negative one where you haven't. And then you find out, how did you get to those 2 futures? And it turns out that people's negative future, they always got there by doing the same thing they've always been doing. And that the positive future, you have to up your game. And so then you have to look back and see, how did I up my game? What did I do differently to get myself there? Here. And that is the first step of not only knowing where you want to go, but getting a sense of what attitude you have to have in order to get there. And it comes from your own inner guidance. It doesn't come from someone else.
Yeah.
It comes from your deep imagination.
Talking about inner guidance, I mean, I have an inner guide, an inner coach, I call it, but I also have a very fierce inner critic. And how do we deal? I mean, I think everyone has one, so I will make a big vision for myself and start going towards it. But all of a sudden, the inner critic will say, I'm not good enough, I'm not clever enough, blah, 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 blah. And over the years, I'm learning to dance with my inner critic and have a sense of humor about it. What is your advice about dealing with the way, that inner critic who might sabotage us?
I'm smiling because one of the jokes people say is to the inner critic is, thank you for sharing. But
True.
I'm not up for that. I think one of the best ways is to engage your inner critic by saying, I know you want the best for me, and this is your way of protecting me. Actually, it doesn't help. I want you to work with me. And also, I think it helps to engage the child as well, to talk to your inner child, because the inner child is often very frightened. And the critic is also protecting the child. And in a way, you're saying to the child, I'm the adult here. I'll do the work. You don't have to do it.
Yeah.
I'll take care of you. I'll take you where I'm going, but you don't have to do the work. And so you protect the child, and you tell the critic, for example, at a time I felt very driven, I got the critic to help me to drive instead of being driven by the critic. And that's when I started my book on new beginnings, actually, was when I really got that the inner critic was going to help me drive and warn me about differences in a discriminating way, not criticize me.
And you see, I just love that idea, the idea of making friends with your inner critic and getting them in the passenger seat, not as a sort of person who's going to do this, but actually can help you. So when you're doing your work in your workshops, do you get people to personify the inner coach or the inner critic and the inner child? How do you get people to communicate? Because for some people who may be watching this is a completely new concept.
Yeah. Well, I don't always work with the inner critic. I usually do some work with the inner child. You might even have a conversation with your future self who knows how to get there, or with the best therapist in the world, or the best coach in the world. The best way to do it is to imagine the person or the being, put them in another chair.
Oh, okay, that's good. Yeah.
And then you tell them all the stuff you want to tell them. And then you actually change your seat and sit in the other seat and look back at yourself. And it's really remarkable when you sit in the seat, in that other seat, and you look back at yourself, you will see things you could not see from inside. The same way as you know how to help your friends, but you can't always help yourself. When you shift to another seat, you can help yourself in a way that you cannot from inside yourself. So that's a fabulous way to go back and forth, but actually change seats. You can do it without that, but it just makes it easier, especially if you're working at home without anyone helping you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, so let's say you've created a vision. Mm-hmm. You have found a way to communicate with your inner child and a critic, that you could do that. So you can hear that kind of when they're trying to sabotage you. And then what? How do we create a very concrete plan for ourselves about creating this new reality?
So, actually, before we go on to the plan, I just want to add a couple of things, because the inner critic is a particular way of thinking about it. But the fact is that what helps all the time is, first of all, I have a little saying. It goes, expand, don't contract. So as soon as we feel threatened, we get smaller. We lose contact with our resources. So you can almost imagine like a light around you that's very small. Make it as big as England. Make it as big as, just that expansion helps. Just thinking about, I have to expand, because then I'm in touch with my resources.
Yes.
So that's a very important bit. And the other important bit is to keep your eye on the ball. Is where you're going now. You're going to go there. And so all of these things are part of the process. And actually, I'm just working with my trainer, and it's something I learned physically. When I want to keep my balance, I have to keep my eye on something. And then I say to myself, I can do this one step at a time. I can do this one step at a time. And that's how I keep my balance. So I think it's very important. Also, every step you take, you get a picture of yourself having done that.
Yes.
So the inner critic is going boom, boom, boom. And you are saying, okay, thank you for sharing. I'm getting a picture of myself having done it, feeling good. I send the bubble off, blow it off. Now I know I'm going to do it.
Yes.
And so the inner critic hasn't got that same power. Now, in terms of the steps.
Yes.
So the first thing is, as I say, when you go into the future, you look back. You say, how did I get there? Okay. And then and you decide, do you want the positive or the negative future? And I mean, it's a funny question, but some people say it's safer to have the negative future. I know that, it's familiar. One woman said to me once, I can't take my mother into the positive future. You have to decide to have that positive future, and then you come back and you say yes. So because people always say how, and I always say first you have to say yes. So the yes, I'm going to do it, whatever it costs me. If I don't get there, that's okay, but I'm doing my best.
Yes.
And then I start taking steps. And one way to do it is to actually have a timeline. Imagine a line on the floor between, and if you could have someone to help you take notes, that's great. You start where you are. Say it's a 5-year plan. You kind of see that as 5 years, and you start taking steps.
Yes.
1, you stop. Take a step. Stop. Breathe. What's my first step? Oh, trust myself. Okay. Next step. Oh, okay. Do the research. Next step. Oh, communicate with other people. So I'm intuitively getting a sense, not only from the future looking back, but from now that I know the future, walking towards it. And then I get that into sub-steps and make plans and so on. Terribly important, and this is what I want to really emphasize, to use these kind of visioning methods, these intuition things, when you want to start, you have a new beginning, because you have ideas of what you have wanted, what you should want, what you've been told you want, what you believe is good for you. And those are not a good indicator of what's the right thing for you. So looking from the beginning, looking forward from where you are to where you want to be, you may get it very wrong. You know, I want a Cadillac. Yes, maybe you do, but is that going to get you where you want to go? Whereas if you say, I'm going to get a vision of 5 years from now and I'm feeling connected with my true self and happy, then you'll get a picture that really honors who you are, so that it goes into what I call the genius imagination or the authentic imagination. So I think it's really important to use your intuition and to use that very good brain of yours to focus, to take notes, to make plans, to and of course, whenever you make plans, you can assume it's too many. It's too much. You've probably overcommitted yourself. It's probably ridiculous.
Yeah.
So then you have to cut it in half. Whatever you planned, you have to cut in half.
Yeah, absolutely. Dina, this is fantastic. This is great. So what I'm hearing you say is the first step is to create the vision and to look at, one vision of how it could be in the future. The other vision is if you change nothing, what's going to happen? So the two different visions, and then first of all is making the space and time to do this. The second is having those visions. And the third is creating a timeline with action steps to take along the way. Noticing when your inner critic pops in. Thank you for sharing. And then doing it anyway. I think that's brilliant. That's really, really good.
Yeah, and connecting to the people, finding people in your life who support you. I call this a soul community. People that support you for who you really are and who you want to become, not for what you've been or what you think you should be. And these people will help you a lot.
I think it's so key. Community is so key too. I see, everyone in the Psychologies community at the Life Leap Club, our community that we're starting to build and support each other as you say. A lot of people don't like it when you change, do they? When you're in your real life. And
Scarcity was always, our first slogan was Sun, Sea, and a sense of community. I always thought that came first. Yeah. That when you're in a community of people that love and support you for who you really are, something happens. And that's why wherever I go in the world, people say, I've had a turning, thank you for starting Scarcity, but just like you've done, thank you for starting Scarcity. It was a turning point in my life. They always say that. Why? I don't think it's the courses only. I think it's being in this very carefully constructed, supportive, loving, and honest community. And I think you have to find that wherever you are, a community. Yeah.
No, I absolutely agree, and I think you're right about Scarcity. That environment of other writers for me helped me, encouraged me when I realised that everyone thought that their writing was rubbish. But they did it anyway, and it was amazing. And that was a real, a turning point for me, definitely, when I was there. Are you at Skyros this summer? Are you teaching?
I'm at Skyros. I'm at first at the Skyros Center. I think it might be. I'm gonna have to check it on the 20.
Is it July? 23rd of July?
Yeah. I'm at Skyros Center, but I think that course is full now, actually. But then I'm at Pizza, which is on the 21st. I think 4th of August. That one isn't full. That one is actually called.
Just in case there's anybody who would love to come.
Yes, this is actually called. And the thing about the pizza is that it's full of other activities as well. So you won't be stuck with me. You'll have loads of other activities, including Monique, who I think you're speaking to.
Yeah, I know. We're talking to Monique.
Who's going to be there, and that's our 40th anniversary session. So I think that's a great session to come. It's a big celebration. 40 years. Can you imagine? We started in 1979, and this is our 40th summer. So
I just want to acknowledge you, to create that and to keep it going, and it's an amazing vision that you had, and you have created. You're a living, breathing example of just the advice that you've just given. So, Dina, we have to finish up there now, but thank you so much for your time and your advice and your wisdom. Once again, you've fired me up and filled me full of inspiration. So I'm so delighted to talk to you today. Thank you, Dina. Lots of love, and I'll speak to you soon.
And thank you, Suzy. Lots of love to you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye-bye, my love. I'm just trying to finish this off. 1 second.